Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the On the Pony Express podcast. I'm Billy Embody. With me right here is Hayden Howerton, and we have a special guest on this interview-only edition for the SMU Clemson game, and we go to that interview right now on this edition of the On the Pony Express podcast presented by Northwest Insurance Agency.
Remember when your biggest worry was finding parking at Dallas Hall? Now it's protecting your home, your car, maybe even that first business. That's where Northwest Insurance Agency comes in. Exclusive coverage designed by Mustangs for Mustangs who've galloped into the real world. Protect what you've built and move forward with confidence, because once a Mustang, always moving forward.
Northwest Insurance.
This is the On the Pony Express podcast, part of the On3 network. Check out all the SMU coverage you need at ontheponyexpress.com. Now, here's your host, Billy Embody.
1, 2, 3, let me go.
Now, Hayden, of course, we've got a big guest. We alluded to it last week, but this is one that you locked in right away. So I'm going to let you get this all lined up for this big SMU Clemson preview we're doing.
Big week, guys. Big guest, too. I'm super excited to bring this guy to you guys. Very special guest from the Clemson side of things, South Carolina native for all y'all. He is a former four-star tight end prospect before he joined the good guys and became an all-ACC offensive lineman. He's the winningest player in Clemson history when he graduated. He's physically large, but behind the mic, in front of the camera, he's larger than life. ESPN and ACC Network studio analyst for The Huddle, Eric Mac Lain. Welcome to the show.
What's up, boys? Man, that
What's
was
up,
a hell
man?
of an intro, baby. Let's go. I'm digging
Bring
that.
it in for my guy, man.
Come on, man.
Use that in your next contract negotiation.
Please, can I clip that and send it in? Like, geez, that's big bucks right there, man.
Dude, we're fired up to have you, man. But before we can sit around and talk all night and chop it up about college football, ACC, dude, I want to hear some of your story. Talk to us kind of about your background, your upbringing, how you got to Clemson. You know, let some of our fans hear all about you.
Yeah. Well, how much time do we have? You know, which version of the story do you want to hear? But, it's funny when you were kind of, asking kind of different things about the intro and saying, are you from Fayetteville? It's like, kind of. Went to high school there. I kind of claim it. So I'm a military brat. My pops I grew up with Pops being in the Air Force. And a lot of SMU fans, if you remember, he came to Dallas. He was beat bopping around and got to meet all the people. And the Colonel was having a great time in Dallas. And I give huge shout out and thanks to all of the SMU family for taking care of him when we were there. But so we moved around a little bit, man. So I grew up primarily in Powell, Tennessee, is what I kind of right by Knoxville there. So I was born in Alabama. He got out. We moved to Tennessee, where my mom's whole family pretty much was. And then when the towers fell in 2001, he got back in like immediately. And we started that journey. So went up to Ohio, North Carolina, Mississippi, and then I was in college there. So it was one of those things where you got a lot of friends, a lot of different places, but it's just such a unique thing, growing up in the military. And, funny enough, kind of with that background, my mom's mom, so my grandmother went to Alabama, and her whole side of the family went to Alabama. My mother's dad, my grandfather, went to Tennessee, and my mom went to Tennessee. Her brother, most of our family on that side went to Tennessee. So I grew up in SEC country, and I was either going orange or crimson, which one was I going to kind of do there. And growing up in Knoxville, always wanted to play for Tennessee. And it was literally just part of my plan, was going to grow up, go there, go to the NBA or the NFL. And that's just kind of was going to be what it was. And, I grew up going to that camp as a little kid. And so seeing all that, being a part of it, literally my whole life, fast forward now, I'm a big dude. I'm a prospect and pretty good at, what I do. I'm actually going into ninth grade. I've never even played a snap of varsity. I'm at camp, for Tennessee, like I always have for who knows how many years. Taj Boyd's there, Bryce Petty's there, all these dogs, quarterbacks. And I'm just this little rising ninth grader killing dudes at the tight end position, just catching all these passes, doing all these things. And a guy comes up to me. He's like, hey, where do you go to school? I was like, oh, I will go to Jack Britt. And he says, you will? What do you mean? I was like, well, I'm a rising ninth grader. And they're like, what? They're like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? You're killing these, 5-star guys over here that we're trying to bring to Tennessee. What do you mean? And so I kind of break it down and tell them all that. And they're like, wow, can you come over here and meet Coach Fulmer? And I was like, yeah, that would be awesome. I'm just this little kid that knows nothing. And so we go over there talking to him. And so I don't know how Coach Lashley does camps or anything that y'all have seen before, but there's kind of like this razzle dazzle football, kind of like ultimate Frisbee section of camp that occurs. And they come to me, they're like, hey, we want you to go over here while that's happening. And we're going to do some one-on-ones and some 7-on-7. We just kind of want to see some stuff. And so I'm going over there, and I'm not like freaky athletic fast, but I can just catch. Like I catch everything. And so we're doing all this stuff. I score some touchdowns and things of this nature. And Fulmer comes up to me afterwards. And again, mind you, I'm so young, don't know anything about this process. I'm just ignorant to it all, like a deer in headlights. This is great. And he pulls me to the side and he's like, son, this is, we're really impressed. And we'd like for you to play, for the University of Tennessee one day. And I was like, yeah, me too, buddy. That'd be great. I was like, this is awesome. And he was like, well, is your dad around? And so funny enough, my dad, not funny, it kind of stinks, but it is what it is. My dad was deployed. He was in the Middle East. And I was like, no, sir, but my mom's here. And my dad's overseas, da-da-da. He's like, oh, okay, military kid. I was like, yes, sir. He's like, well, I like that. And so he goes over to my mom, and I don't remember how he said it, but it basically was an offer. And we're like, well, yeah, well, I need to call my dad. And so this is so funny just how far, back in time. I'm not that old, but I'm old enough. We got to call him on a satellite phone. Like we can't call him. Sure. And so we call him, doesn't answer, whatever. We're like, oh, sorry, coach. And, I'll talk to him and then we'll call you back. And so we get down the road, camp's over. It's been a couple hours now. And, he calls back. He's like, hey, buddy, how was camp? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, Coach Fulmer offered me. And it's just quiet. And so, we thought we lost connection and all these different things. And I'm like, Dad, did you hear me? And he's like, well, what'd you say? And I said, I got to talk to my dad first. And he said, well, turn around and tell him that we're in. And so that's kind of how that story happened. And so I was committed to them, for like 2 years, and then they got fired, which was crazy and terrible. I think it was a 9-win season. They got fired after a 9-win season. But the long story short of that is Dan Brooks was on that staff. He was my recruiter for North Carolina, a great defensive line coach for years, have been one of the best of the best. When they got fired, he got hired by Dabo at Clemson. Fast forward a couple months, however long that took. We stayed committed. I met Lane Kiffin, was not interested anymore, decommitted, which stunk because that's what I wanted to do was go to Tennessee. And he called me out of nowhere and said, hey, Eric, saw you decommitted. We'd love to have you. I'm over at Clemson. And I'm just like, where? What'd you say? He said, Clemson. We're in South Carolina. And literally, I swear to y'all, I have no idea what Clemson is or where it is. And he's like, yeah, we're in the ACC. And I'm like, what? Like, Coach, I'm not going to the ACC. What are you talking about? No, thanks. Great to hear from you, but no, thanks. So we hang up. He calls back, a couple of times. The recruiting process starts. And my parents and I were just like, it'd be great just to see Coach Brooks. We haven't seen him in a year, so let's just go see him. And so we were at Auburn. We went to Alabama, Auburn, and on our way back home to Fayetteville, North Carolina. And we're on 85. And he called me when we were literally leaving Auburn. All these guys talk. They know. Guys like Billy writing everywhere. Everybody knows where everybody is. And so he calls me and says, hey, I know you're in Auburn. You have to drive by Clemson to go home, which we did. And I was like, really? Okay, well, we'd love to come see you. So we go by, man, we get off on 19B, which y'all will do, maybe, actually. Depends on who you fly with, Billy. And you
driving
get off on
Charleston.
Yeah.
Charleston.
Oh, there you go. Maybe you will. And there's tiger prints, on the road there. And again, we're doing some research. I know nothing about this school. I don't know their mascot, their coach, their colors, nothing. And we're looking up, okay, they're purple and orange. They got a tiger paw. That's cool. They're the Tigers. We pull around this place and the sun is setting. And it's literally purple and orange, like everywhere. And we're just like, this is weird. Like, how's this happening? This is very strange. And again, I told you, Auburn is very similar in a way to Clemson, but we're Tuscaloosa, Knoxville, up at Ohio State, Duke, all these different things, very different from Clemson, and so we're kind of pulling around, and it says, man, you're 5 minutes from the stadium, because that's where their offices were at the time. And we're like passing cow pastures and sunflower fields. We're like, what? Where the heck are we? And I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. And we come around that edge, man, on Perimeter Road, which y'all will see, and the stadium just rips out. Like Death Valley just rips out of the trees. And you're just like, whoa, this is crazy. This is so different. And, then I meet Dabo. And again, those schools that I mentioned, Nick Saban, Philip Fulmer, Joe Pop at Penn State, Jim Tressel, like just older, established dudes. And then I meet this little old funky wide receiver coach that somehow is the head coach of the Clemson Tigers. And it was just so different. It was so unique. And I could just feel that. Like I could feel his passion. I could feel his energy. I could visualize his, confidence and belief at what we could build at Clemson. And I wanted to be a part of it. And it felt so weird because I knew anything about this school. And I just felt such an attraction to it. And fast forward throughout my career and ACC championships, a bunch of wins, and, participating in a national championship game. I mean, it was the best decision of my life. And so it was a pretty crazy story to get to all that, but that's how I arrived as a Clemson Tiger.
One of to bring it back to SMU, Casey Woods, offensive coordinator, was a GA Fulmer's last year there while you were committed. So little tie in there, but that was long before you became the winningest player in school history.
Come on, isn't that crazy? It's a wild roundabout way to get to somewhere,
and that has to mean the world to you. To be that level of a Tiger, seeing your career go the way it did. What does that mean to you to be in that position?
Yeah, no, it's something I don't take lightly. It's something that I'm very prideful about. And I'm sure, like we all are, of our, respective universities. But, I committed to Clemson. I came to Clemson to make a change and to get, that place back to where it once was back in 81. And, we obviously got super close, but I tell myself we're the foundation everybody stood on. That's what I tell myself. And then they have that unbelievable success. But just how the school has grown from all that, from literally the campus to admissions to growth to, just the relationships you make along the way. And that's what I encourage anybody in this process. And honestly, it's probably more important now than it ever has been. Just because NIL and dollars and everybody's so attracted to, who can pay me the most? That's awesome for a year, maybe 4 best. But what's the next 40 look like? Like, can you call anyone there to get things done? Do you have any relationships? Do you have lifelong brothers and or sisters, that were at your school, leadership wise, politics? I mean, throughout the state, all these different things, man, that, Clemson is just a key component in my life still to this day. And it's one of those things that, you just really hope people think about that when they're making these decisions, for whatever school that ends up being. Just look at the really big picture and how this, university will be your network for the rest of your life.
Man, you're speaking my language, honestly. I mean, that kind of gave me goosebumps because when I went on my visit to SMU, I'm sitting on a pizza box in front of, 5,000 people. And now to see SMU where it's at. So, dude, I have mad respect for you, but can you get a little bit into the kind of player-coach relationship you had with Dabo Swinney, kind of what's gone into his 20 years of success that he's had at Clemson? You guys also have a huge piece that is a little under the radar, your head strength coach, who I think is retiring at the end of this year, if I'm not mistaken.
He is. Yeah, it's one of the best, man. Just – to have that guy and to see him learn and grow. I mean, it's one thing that I think is such an undervalued, under-acknowledged piece of this puzzle. Head coaches are learning and getting better too. I mean, Rhett Lashley right now today is not nearly as good as he's going to be 10 years from now. It isn't as savvy, isn't as knowledgeable, isn't as experienced. And, I kind of went through that with Coach Swinney and saw him grow within that 5 years. Just because we were having really, really good success that, he hadn't gone through as a coach yet and had to learn and had to adjust. And, these big time games, these big time moments, there's a lot surrounding it, right? When you're playing in a BCS championship game, when you're playing in a BCS bowl and you have extra time, you have extra days, you have big time opponents, to where we won 2 of those before I left. Lost the first one in the most embarrassing fashion you can imagine, 70-33, just getting whipped, to, at the end of it, winning a playoff game, at that same Orange Bowl that we were embarrassed at, to go on to a national championship. And so just to see that, to be molded by him, I mean, so many stories. I used to have books of stuff that he would just say that I just, in team meetings, write down, and just unbelievable notes. And, I think too, that were, things that just, kind of shaped me still who I am today, and thought process of today is just, the genuine appreciation for everybody's role, treat everybody, with the same utmost respect, because if the janitor doesn't do his job, the company's going to be in a bad spot. If the CEO doesn't do his job, the company's going to be in a bad spot. And so you have that genuine appreciation and respect, and, just treating everybody the same there, that always resonated with me. And he lived that. Like we saw that. It wasn't just lip service. The way that he handled literally the people that would clean our building, the way that he would interact and love on the walk-ons, the same as the 5-star quarterback. I mean, that was, one of my greatest things of him is there's a lot of people that are boat talkers. They'll just sit there and blah, 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 blah. But when it's time to get out and walk on that water, it's a little bit different story, but it's not for him. And then the second piece, because as I got older and was, more popular as a player and making an impact on the team, I got the opportunity to do a lot of different things like we're kind of doing right now. And, he just reminded me that, hey, you never know who is going to be watching these clips that you do, these radio interviews, talking with these writers. You have no idea. And one day it might be your boss. One day it might be your future wife. One day it might be all this and that. So make sure you always, A, take advantage of that, no matter how big or small you think that opportunity is. And then B, just remember that you're not only representing yourself and your family and everything that they worked for you to get to this moment, but you're also representing us. You're also representing that Paul and everyone, that wore it before you. And so I always took great pride and just thought I was really privileged to be able to do that. And those are two things, just teaching wise, that always stuck with me. And then you mentioned Joey B, not to be too long-winded, but back in my day, we were with them way more than we were with our coaches, right? Like we were with the strength staff a ton, just because of the different NCAA rules and time and practice allotments, things like that. But they're we're very different ones with them, and we were with them almost every day, for a lot of different days. And so you just have that bond, and to see him, change and become, just so ingrained with his faith throughout the years, and how strong he is as a man and developing men, not just big, strong freaks, right? Like that's clearly a huge piece of it. But the development as a husband, as a father, as a member of society, he and Dabo Swinney, I mean, that's so much more instrumental in what they care about, than the football stuff, because they know that'll take care of itself. If you're doing these things that we're developing you over here, football will be easy. That'll be fine. And again, just such a privilege for me and an honor to be, really raised and developed by those two men.
Go ahead, Hayden.
Wow.
And then we'll get to Clemson, SMU, and then the season.
Is there a game coming up?
Yeah. I know. Well, before the season, we were going to go, an hour with you on just SMU Clemson. We'll bring you back in the off season for the live story. But this,
that's
right. We're beating around the bush here now.
Great game.
Yeah, great game. How about Georgia Tech Duke? Huh?
The one thing I was going to bring up, when Chad Morris was the head coach for SMU, and he came from Clemson, he's a Dabo Swinney coaching tree kind of guy. He talked about the different wheels of the bus and the development. Do you feel like your spiritual wheel, I know you just talked about your faith, do you feel like that was grown under Dabo Swinney?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's, I don't want to say it was forced, because there's a negative connotation of that. And I do not mean that in any way, but it was just almost like, it was so undeniable, right? Because it's just who he was. It's not like he sat in there and, we recited Bible verses or sang hymns, but it just came out in everything he did. And again, I talk about, walking the walk and talking the talk. Like, it's just who he is, man. It's so ingrained in every aspect of his life, being his faith, that it was just normal. Right. And I think that we all got closer that way. We learned different things that way. And, he's so great at, like numbers or letters and finding sayings or meaning and extra meaning. And, what was fascinating, the 2012 season, that one of our verses at the beginning of the year that he brought up was, running your race to win. And it was, 25 and I think it's Proverbs 24 and 25. And, it just talks about running your race, and it talks about everything you do, run your race to win. Everything you do it for the Lord. And, it's unbelievably ironic and maybe a God wink, whichever way you lean, that we beat LSU 24-25 on a game-winning field goal, all these different things. And it just, how could it be any different? What else could it be? And that really was the propulsion game where, we'd been knocking on the door. Yeah. And the nation kind of knows who we are, but it just felt like that game was our welcome, here we come party. Like, we're kicking that door down and we're not going to look back. And you see the success that Clemson went on a crazy decade and a half run with.
The On the Pony Express podcast is presented by Manny's. Go to any of your 4 locations across DFW and use the code Queso to get 10% off your order of food, whether ordering carry out or having a meal at Manny's. Enjoy their Komen Rita, where they donate $1 to the Susan G. Komen Foundation for breast cancer research and awareness and all of those things during the entire month of October. So go there, enjoy a Komen Rita, and support a great cause with our friends at Manny's. And of course, use Queso and get 10% off your order. Really enjoyed getting to sit down with some of our subscribers this week at Manny's Tex-Mex and chat a little bit about SMU Clemson, the future of SMU, all of these things. And we did it at Manny's, of course, and got taken care of very, very well by their staff there and had a great meal. So I hope you guys give Manny's a shot. Go to the one in Lakewood, Plano, Saxe, or Rockwall. Any of them work. They're all great. And it's just an incredible experience for you guys there at Manny's Tex-Mex. Well, we'll bring you back for more stories from.
We can do that anytime you want.
Because one, it's such a long run for Dabo, and you've been there for so much of it, in one way or the other, and you've witnessed it up close. I do want to one day ask you how the 45-minute press conference post game has evolved over the years, because I know it's those Clemson beat writers will be there late.
That's right.
No matter what. Right. But this season of ACC football, you've sat in the chair, seen it all. You've got the TVs. You've been able to witness so much of it. Is this one of the wide open for us newcomers? Is this one of the most wide open you've seen it?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And I know it hurts to talk about it being it wide open in a way, but
yeah, no, it is because you look back at the record books and you look back at the titles. I mean, it's been Florida State and it's been Clemson, and there was a Pittsburgh somehow in the middle of all that. But that's who's won this thing, for a long, long time. And you had Florida State kind of get back in 23, and then kind of where they are right now, and Clemson taking a hiatus for a year or two, and then they got back in it last year. That's just been what it was. And before that, it was Georgia Tech and Virginia Tech. And, it's just kind of been these one or two teams having a stranglehold on the conference, where it feels like this year, I mean, maybe it's Miami, but we've seen how they finish seasons and what November can look like for them. So it does feel open, and not that it's random, but when you look at the conglomerate of teams right now, you have Miami, who it feels like everyone's putting to the side as this team that's very, very different. And then you've got SMU, Virginia, Duke, and Georgia Tech battling it out for who's going to be, the second team there. And, obviously there's great familiarity for you guys, having done that your first year there. But yeah, I mean, it's anybody's game. And, I think the interesting thing to me is with SMU in particularly is I'm about at the same place I was with them last year at this time. And that was kind of like, man, I don't know if they can do it. And then you guys go on this unbelievable run and win out going into the conference championship game. So who knows? Who knows what it's going to look like? And you see the schedule, you see who everybody plays, who they don't play. There could be a fascinating situation on the end of our hands when we get to maybe a coin flip for who's number 2. I don't know. It's going to be wild. It's going to be wild.
With the discrepancy of the league, I mean, I certainly didn't expect Virginia to be sitting at 5-1, and 3-0 at ACC play. I also probably drank the Kool-Aid of Florida State after their week 1 win against Alabama. What has been the biggest surprise of the season so far for you?
Well, I like to I like to be a positive guy, and I think where Virginia is right now is pretty spectacular. I mean, the way that they've done it, the way that they've looked. Obviously, that's my guy, and Coach Elliott, who was my offensive coordinator when I was in college for my last year there. It's amazing to see. And Chandler Morris, like literally, I'm sure you same thing. I'm watching him walk around like just out of diapers, pretty much 5, 6 years old. And to see him now where he is, the level that he is playing at. It's fun, man. He is a Brett Favre gunslinger, and the best part about his game is he has total amnesia. If a bad thing happens, next. What's next? Let's go win this game. And I love that. I love that mentality. They're playing very nice complementary football right now. I mean, their last game, they probably had their worst offensive performance, and yet they found a way to beat an undefeated Louisville team, scoring twice on defense, holding them when it matters most. And that's important. That's important for your teammates to see, and for your coaching staff and everybody involved. So I think, biggest, best surprise right now is certainly how Virginia's playing.
I think too, Hayden might know this, but you'll maybe, if you want to do some Googling on it, a little HP magic going on at Virginia, a little Highland Park magic is what they like to call it. That's what Chandler Morris has brought to the table there for the Hoos. And, I think for them, they have a reasonable, trip down the rest of the season. I mean, it's not bad. It's really interesting that these teams like Georgia Tech seems like a reasonable, trip to Charlotte to look ahead at their schedule. But that's also where you get tripped up. And college football, we're seeing it all over the place. With just look at the top 10 teams in the country right now. A very interesting group. Some teams that are always there, and then some teams that you're like, whoa, they're actually hanging out up there for a change. And I think that's what makes this league, fun to watch too. I mean, it's happening all over the country, but this is a year where instead of maybe the ACC being penalized for it, maybe people recognize, hey, they're putting it together this year. Maybe.
That would be nice. That would be nice. A lot of people quickly discrediting Florida State's win early in the season, like as of 3 weeks ago. So I don't know if that'll be the case, but at the end of the day, we just got to get multiple in, right? Like that's the biggest thing for me. We cannot be a one big league, and once we get there, it can't be first game exits. Like we've got to win. We've got to do some damage. And, certainly the way it is right now, and again, a lot can change in this next month and a half of football. It feels like Miami has that real staying power, just the way they're built, the way they're executing. And then I feel confident about any of those, other kind of 3 to 4 teams there that could run the table as well and do some damage. All
right, let's get to Saturday. 2:30. Going to be an electric environment out there.
2:30, buddy. You're coming to God's time zone, okay? It's 3:30. All right.
That's right. That's right. Trying to keep all of our viewers at home on the right track.
Hey, you said that. I was like, 2:30. What are you talking? We on the cartoon?
No, I love it because 3:30 is a little bit closer to sundown. I'm good with that. Give me that sunsetting. Give me that purple and orange that you were talking about on the skies of Death Valley. But it is one of the best environments that you can go to in college football. And these two teams are going to have a heated rematch of that ACC Championship, a heartbreaker for SMU, dramatic finish for Clemson there in Clemson North, however you want to call it, up there in Charlotte. What's your initial read on these two teams?
Yeah, well, I think what's interesting, and I know the reason why you guys feel that you do, but I mean, two teams that are just kind of struggling identity-wise. Like, who are we? Who are we going to be? There was a lot of promise, a lot of excitement, maybe a substantial amount more for Clemson, just in regards to the whole country was pretty much deeming them national champions. And to kind of fall flat on your face a little bit, right? And, to be 1-3 at the time, you're just looking around like, what is going on? How is this happening? What is happening? And I know SMU probably felt very, very similarly, losing to the two Big 12 teams that they played, and just maybe it not quite looking the way that we thought that it could look. And so, the interesting thing is obviously both teams have had very nice, opponents and bounce back opportunities in their last 2 games. Syracuse, obviously a little bit different post Clemson, with Angeli getting hurt, and they're just, they're pretty much a shell of who they were that game, and exploded, absolutely whipped the Tigers. But Clemson in their same breath is, figured it out. Now I'll say that with an asterisk because they have played the worst team in the ACC and the second worst team in the ACC. So I don't think you want to get overly excited. I don't think you want to get overly Clemson's back. Here we go. And maybe they are. Who knows? I think that bye week before, going to Chapel Hill came at a great time. I think there was a great kind of reset that occurred and kind of a come to Jesus meeting and going at people and being very upfront and questioning effort. And do you want to be here? Do you want to do this from everybody, coaches included? And I think that translated very nicely to the field. Again, knowing who the opponent is. And same thing for SMU, maybe not quite as theatrical or as dramatic as that, but, having a Syracuse, having a Stanford to go against before this one. So now where we both teams are feeling quite confident, both quarterbacks are playing at a very high level, right now. And it's a bit of, if we just kind of close out the first 4 weeks of the season, this is exactly where we thought we'd be. Everybody's doing great and, playing at a super high level. So excited to see the matchup. Anytime that I can see Kevin Jennings and Cade Klubnik on the same field, it's a delight. It's going to be fireworks, and you get really excited to see that. I think that, just the overall gamesmanship of this thing, how much can Clemson take advantage, of the SMU secondary? How much can the SMU defense try to take advantage of the Clemson offensive line that, has been kind of up and down and Cade holding on to the ball prior to these last two games. So I'm fascinated to see that matchup. And then, of course, the creative nature, the extending plays nature, the elusiveness of Kevin Jennings, historically a type of player that has given Clemson a ton of fits, with able to extend plays. And right when you think you got him, here he comes out of the pocket, ripping it downfield for a big time play. So there's a handful of kind of between the lines matchups that you're really kind of, thrilled to see and see how they shake out.
The On the Pony Express podcast is presented by our friends at StatusJet, statusjet.com. Reach out to David Henry and his team today, and they can get you hooked up for the trip of a lifetime. And that is whether it's Clemson, whether it's Wake Forest, whether it's Cal, or whether it's these basketball games that now you have game times to plan around. StatusJet can handle it all. Get a discount on a round trip flight when you book a trip with our friends at StatusJet today. Make sure you tell David Henry and his team that On the Pony Express sent you for that discount on a round trip flight.
The biggest matchup for me this weekend is going to be that SMU offensive line. I mean, you've got Savion Byrd, who's kind of emerged as a starter role back, and he gets a chance to face TJ Parker, who forced a strip sack last year in the ACC Championship. My big question mark is, how will this offensive line respond against a top 2 defensive line unit in the conference? I mean,
and it's one of those things where I don't know, I've got like PTSD. Like, are they going to be that? Are they going to play to that level? Are they going to show out and show up when you're talking about 2 top 5 picks in TJ Parker and Peter Woods preseason? And my goodness, what Will Held has done. That dude is skyrocketing up draft boards at the other defensive end position. And so, what are we going to get? Who are we going to see? Are we going to see that effort? I don't know why we wouldn't. I have to imagine the first 4 weeks of the season, those 2 guys were bleeding money in regards to draft stock and where they're going to be, and certainly turned it on. I mean, I think both lines of scrimmage for Clemson had by far and away their best day last week. And so is that growth? Is that poor opponent? Is that seeing what we're going to see the rest of the year? Who knows? We'll find out after this one. And then Clemson will find out even more, I think, in a couple of weeks when Duke comes to town. So I'm with you, though. It's going to be fun to watch. And one thing, I'm not like breaking news because everybody saw the game. Jaheim Lawson is balling. Like he is really playing at a fun level right now. They slid him into 3 technique. They stood him up, moved him around. He is, been a guy that it's taken time and it's taken development and some years. But he's playing as well as anybody on that defensive line right now. So how will Clemson continue to mix up what that D-line looks like? How will they continue to try to put SMU and other opponents in favorable situations, whether that's, long distances, 3rd and long, 2nd and long, get them behind the chains where it's a little bit, more predictable in what they'll try to do.
Yeah, 2 sacks last game for Jaheim Lawson, just really wreaking havoc on. One thing we at least think we know about Boston College is somewhere in there's good offensive line play.
We would think
that proud program. So him coming after him and getting after the BC passing attack is really something that you can't take for granted, even though BC has been what BC has been. Cade and Kevin. I mean, this is a case of two quarterbacks that are looking to kind of re-cement themselves for the second half of this season as guys that can lead their team to, really good bowl games. Obviously, Kevin in particular, not that Clemson's ACC championship dreams are out the door completely, but tough road to get there. But, Kevin still has that opportunity, at least maybe ahead of them. It's got to be one of those matchups for them that they relish first and foremost. But last year, I think the difference in that game ultimately was that Cade took care of the football in a way. Obviously, it came down to the final two drives there and somebody making a play at the end. But, Kevin was, careless with the ball early in the game, and that cost SMU. It'll be interesting to see which version of Kevin Jennings comes out of this one, because he's been playing at a high level, even with some of the turnovers this year. It's really been, his completion percentage, his efficiency, his play when under, or at least when being blitzed. I'm really intrigued to see how Tom Allen attacks Kevin Jennings, considering they also played him in the college football playoff as well.
Right. He got an up close and personal snapshot of that. And so, I am too. And to look at, again, what KJ has done, these last couple of games, 83% 2 weeks ago or against Syracuse, and then obviously 74%, no turnovers in the last game, and ran the ball, pretty effectively, I think is good. And it's good for this matchup. And you see the efficiency, same thing with Cade Klubnik in these last two games. He's dealing with a little bit of an injury, with the ankle. He got a little, beat up there towards the end of the game, took a nasty hit, but it actually was his ankle staying in the turf that maybe limited him. So we'll see. Is he the same runner? Probably not. But can he stand back there and deliver strikes, put, a bunch of power through that foot to drive the football? But KJ, just have to let the game slow down, continue to get the ball out to your guys, know that Clemson's probably going to bring some stuff, know where you're protected, know where you're hot, and just kind of taking care of that offense. But these are two of the best in the ACC, and we've got a lot in this league. So there's no question that the game will probably come down to them. And at the end of the day, who can take care of the ball and who can make the big time plays. It's going to be a fun duel.
You gonna ask him, Hayden, any predictions? You just kind of lean into it a little bit? Are you? I
probably know the where he's leaning. I just want to know what he's leaning.
Yeah, that's a great question. And you look at the line. I'm trying to find it right now.
9.5, or at least I don't know.
So it's moved. Did it open bigger? No, it's 8.5. Oh, it has moved. It's gone a point in favor of Clemson. For some reason, I thought it was a little bigger than that. Which I was going to hammer SMU and say take the points there. I still might. It's just one of those things with Clemson. Like, I just got to see it. Like, you just have to prove it to me. And the most sickening thing that I almost could throw up on command here, Clemson has not done well at home.
I was just about to ask you about that.
Protected home. And since
it's crazy.
I don't remember the game, 23 maybe, when we were on a 40-game win streak, and lose to the Chickens at home to keep us out of the college football playoff, essentially. It's been not good. And I think the last 4 Power 4 opponents have been losses at home. Not good. So Tigers win, but give me the Mustangs to cover.
Well, I can tell you this. There's the old SMU, which Hayden and I and plenty of SMU fans talk about. This is like ripe for, okay, Clemson hasn't played well at home. Clemson is having their worst season in a minute, and start for sure. All of these things, Cade's hurt, all of these things going against Clemson, and then the old SMU would 100% come out flat or not competitive.
That's what we need.
That's what you need. That's what you need. This is the new SMU, and they really do need to, at least. I think for just. I don't want to say that I hope both teams have fun or whatever, try to cop out, but it is a game where SMU has to show that maybe they've taken that step. They can come out and be like that Louisville game last year. That's what I equate this, going into a hostile environment, going right down the field and scoring, putting something together that you haven't necessarily put together all year, and then let the game go play itself out. Competitive game. If you come out with a win, great. You think you're now all of a sudden a little bit, you're feeling better about yourself, but then you don't necessarily know because it's this version of Clemson. Like, how would you even assess SMU if they went in there and won?
Oh no, dude!
Right?
Your chest is out. You're feeling good. You got the
hey, you're gonna have
king's
to tell our
crown
board
like
that.
on your
You're gonna have to tell our board that if
man,
they
tell
do
them to
go
call
there.
me. Happy to talk to any of them. Tell them to call me. No, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. It's a huge thing to get that done. And no, I think that would be a very nice propulsion for the Mustangs for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I mean, while I'm not going to get into my exact score, I do really love SMU playing up to the level of their competition. SMU's been all over the place this year. You go to Missouri State, you play way down. You go the very next week to TCU, and while they didn't end up getting a win, it was their best performance defensively. And so you pair that with the fact that SMU is one of the better revenge teams in the country. I like the Ponies, man. You can call me a homer all you want.
Take a money line then. Show me the receipt.
34-30 SMU.
Oh, he said he wasn't going to get into the score.
34-30, a 4-point win.
Oh,
Man.
are we flipping?
That break my heart.
We can put the barbecue on it or something.
Yeah,
there we go. Little Terry Blacks. Little God. What's my other guy's name? The Twinkie, my Texas Twinkie guy.
Hutchins, probably.
Hutchins, dude. Put a couple Twinkies on it. We can do that, big dog.
Yeah. Well, hey, we need you guys to come down over to Dallas and
please. My God, we had like a permanent stay there. Now we can't get back. What are we doing?
Please come hang out with us and get us an 8 p.m. kickoff because we're all as red as Hayden's Roback sweater these days.
That's right. That's right.
So, well, awesome, man. Well, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And you're such a great ambassador for this league and obviously Clemson for sure. But you're the man. We really appreciate you.
I appreciate y'all, man. Anytime. Keep killing it. Fun to see y'all. Hopefully we get to see you in person sometime soon. And yeah, excited for this game, man. It's going to be a big deal.
The On the Pony Express podcast is presented by Mignon in Plano. Nick Natur, former SMU offensive lineman, and his family have been cooking up incredible meals for many, many years in Plano, whether it be a fine dining experience 7 days a week for dinner or that great brunch on Sundays. Mignon will have it covered for you. So make sure you make your reservation on Open Table today. And if the Mustangs win, go in there on Sunday and get your free dessert, whether it be for brunch or dinner, when you mention On the Pony Express when you dine at Mignon. Hayden, what an interview with EMAC. He's just a stud. There's no other way around it. What he does for the league is as good as you could want from a representation standpoint for the ACC. They need to get him out there even more. He does so much already, but I think he just tells the story of this league so well. He holds people's feet to the fire on certain arguments. And, you know, when you look at where this league is, this is a guy that is going to be riding with it for quite some time. No question about it, whether it be on the huddle or way up in Bristol at some point. He is just on this huge trajectory, and he's a very busy guy, and we're really appreciative of him stopping by.
Man, gotta love one when a former offensive lineman gets on the trajectory that he is. I love him. I told him that. You know, Eric's one of these guys that, to be honest with y'all, I would love to just follow in his shadow. Yeah. Just to wherever he ends up going, man, I'll just be one step right behind you. You know, he's one of those guys that's such a great role model, a great Christian man, as y'all heard on that episode. That was awesome to talk about. Definitely loved some of the stories that he told about Dabo, kind of how he shaped the program himself, how he got his intro to Clemson, you know, as a military brat. Really special stories that he was able to tell, but brings a lot of knowledge about the league, about the history of it, about just even before, you know, the ACC network kind of became its own thing, you know, talking about his playing days. And that's something that he brings to the table where, yes, it was a Clemson and Florida State dominated league for, you know, the 6 to 8 years that he's referring to there. But looking at the league now and just how wide open this thing is going into this 2025 season, even he knows it, you know, and Eric is a guy that when we talked last year on the Boulevard, he said, hey, I'm never not going to pick Clemson. And that's fine. Yeah. But going into it, even he's like, yes, this league is 100% open for the taking.
And I think that's one, the cool thing, as much as I'm sure it pains Eric to look at the league and where it is right now because of where Clemson is. But this matchup, you have no idea really where it's going to go. I think that's the thing that I took away from our chat with him and just kind of getting his feel for things and just kind of how they're feeling over there. They're not feeling great. There is a lot of things that probably need to change overall at Clemson for them to get back to where they want to be. But it is really a still a program that obviously SMU is going to have respect for, but they shouldn't fear either going into Death Valley on Saturday.
No doubt. I mean, they don't love where they're at. SMU doesn't love where they're at either. But for whatever reason, I feel an ACC Classic coming up this weekend. I really think just with the quarterbacks that they have on the field, with the depth that are in the trenches for this game coming up on Saturday, I think it's going to be one of those games to where you look back, and I'm hoping it's not a massive comeback that SMU is having to make for the second straight year, but I think this could be one of those back and forth battles that you look back 5 years from now of, man, why wasn't that a primetime game?
Yeah. And I think too, because both teams aren't these juggernauts, in reality, they were when they met in Charlotte, in a sense, just from the talent level of Clemson. And they still had some key leaders that were on that team that we talked with at the East-West Shrine Bowl, which just got announced for late January, of course. So we're got to get that on the calendar again. But, it is a different team. And that's the thing SMU's been navigating. Obviously, they haven't played up to where they want to yet. We're going to find out a lot about what SMU is in for, I think, as a whole. It is a tough place to play, but SMU's been to tougher. No offense to Death Valley. I mean, no offense. Like Penn State. And it's not to take away anything from Death Valley, but, okay, so this team has experienced that. This shouldn't be as big of a shock. You've got to find ways to start fast. And we'll talk about that on the preview podcast because, we're not just dropping the interview only and then saying, okay, drop some predictions in there a little bit, and there we go. No, we've got our preview podcast coming out for you guys on Thursday as usual. So we hope you guys enjoyed it. We do want to remind you guys, of course, about our friends at AKM Turf and Greens, akmturfandgreens.com. Mention on theponyexpress.com for $500 off your first project. That is a great deal when it comes to revamping your entire backyard. Look at the pavers you could put in there. You can do the putting green, the tripping area, and you could work it around water, pool, all these things. Alex Carpenter's team can help you. Go to akmturfandgreens.com for more information on how they can make the backyard of your dreams. So speaking of dreams, it would be a dream situation for SMU to come out with the win on Saturday. And we'll preview that game on the Pony Express podcast presented by Northwest Insurance Agency on Thursday. So for Hayden Howerton, I'm Billy Embody. Thanks for listening, guys, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to the On the Pony Express podcast with Billy Embody. Follow us on your socials on X at SMU_on3 and on Instagram at On3SMU. And keep it locked to OnThePonyExpress.com for more coverage.